It was clear after the release of Saints Row 2 the series was heading in the right direction, finally coming away from the GTA clone label and becoming more of an alternative to Rockstar's massive franchise. The series could only go up from here, or could it? Even though Volition had the winning formula, it didn't mean that they could execute it in the right way. So what did they get right, and what did they get wrong when it comes to Saints Row the Third? So yeah, I am looking at Saints Row the Third. Now this will be the remaster which released back in 2020, not the original from 2011. It came with a bunch of graphical and performance updates. I will specify when I'm talking about something that's in the remaster other than the original game, but it's mostly the same game. And I decided to try and keep in with the colour scheme. It is purple, it just doesn't look that purple on the camera. And by the time you watch this, England are probably already out of the tournament anyway. So this is the only time I'm going to get to wear this. So yeah, but yeah, with all that out the way, I've got nothing else to add. Let's get straight into Saints Row the Third. After the release of Saints Row 2 in 2008, work started straight away on its sequel, but this would come with a high staff turnover, meaning that only 1/5 of the team that worked on Saints Row 2 worked on Saints Row the Third. It would end up having the longest development in the series between sequels. A video of the game's development was released by a developer from 2009. It shows that the game was originally called Saints Row 3 with the previous game's logo style. This looks strange to me, and I'm glad they decided to change it to Saints Row the Third. If you're not familiar with the series, the reason it's called Saints Row the Third is because the full name of the gang is the 3rd Street Saints, so there you go. A bit of pointless information you probably already knew. Anyway, not a lot was known about this game. It was known to be in development, and that was it. Then at the start of 2011, we got this trailer. It was just a small glimpse of the gameplay, but then a few days later we got the Power trailer. Now obviously I can't show the trailer with a Kanye West song playing in the background, but if you haven't watched the full trailer before, I seriously recommend it, as it's one of the best CG trailers I've ever seen. Over the next few months we would get different trailers and gameplay footage released, showing more of the game off, and I can tell you, little 14-year-old Dan was hyped for what was coming. Seeing the crazy weapons that would be in the game, and seeing the mission where you were falling from a plane while taking out enemies mid-air, was just showing how much things had been amped up since Saints Row 2. Another thing to note is that in 2011, 2 franchises would be going head to head, these being Call of Duty and Battlefield. With the release of Modern Warfare 3 and Battlefield 3 scheduled for release about the same time, the battle of the first person shooters was on. But why am I bringing this up? Well, that's because the team over at Volition decided to poke fun at both franchises by parodying both of them in the Shock and Awesome trailer.
Stalker 1-0, this is Stalker 1-1. Status report, over. Stalker 1-1, this is Stalker 1-0. Leaving Manhattan, entering Brooklyn Battery Tunnel now, over.
I ain't letting nobody push me around no more. About time we had some action. That's right, bitches, I'm back.
I do miss this era of video game trailers. They seemed a lot more fun compared to the ones we get nowadays, and Saints Row the Third pre-launch trailers were some of the best. Anyway, by mid-November of 2011, we finally got to play Saints Row the Third. Well, it's time to talk about the story, and just to warn you, from this moment on, the story in these games has just a little bit of a tonal shift. Just a little bit. But first, let's recap. After you defeat the 3 gangs in Saints Row 2, you get attacked by Ultor. Something I forgot to mention in my last video was that Ultor are a company that have taken complete control of the city of Stillwater, and now after the Saints have done their dirty work by wiping the 3 other gangs off the map, Ultor want to get rid of the Saints. Which, you know, goes as well as you'd expect.
And you have the Saints' #1 fan running Ultor.
You can also get a secret ending by finding a mission hidden in the police station, where you find out Julius, the leader of the Saints in the first game, was the one who planted the bomb that blew up the boat you were on. You then meet up with Julius, which, you know, goes as well as you'd expect.
I guess that makes us even.
Not really.
After this, the Saints basically owned Stillwater. With no one to oppose them, they decide to turn the Saints into a brand, selling things like energy drinks, clothing, and even producing movies, which is how we end up in the world of Saints Row III. To help an actor research the role of playing one of the Saints, they take him on a bit of a work experience, where they decide to rob a bank, which turns out to be owned by something called the Syndicate. The Saints try and escape, but end up being arrested. After their release, the Syndicate offer them a shoddy deal to be partners, which, you know, goes as well as you'd expect. After fighting your way through the plane, you need to jump off, which is where we get the first problem with Saints Row III's story, Johnny Gat's death.
Johnny, we're about to jump!
Right on. I'll see you at
Johnny?
Now I know I've just spoiled this, but considering the fact that it was retconned in the next game and also revealed in the gameplay trailer for this game, I don't think it's really a secret at this point. I don't know whose idea it was to kill a character off screen who's been in the series since day one, but it just didn't make sense to kill him off in this way. You compare that to Carlos and Lynn's death in the last two games, and I don't know, Johnny deserved better than this man. Oh well, forget about that now, it's time to land right into the new city of Steelport and completely rebuild the Saints Empire in a new city, while taking on the Syndicate, which still contain 3 gangs just like the previous games. These being the Morning Star, the main gang of the 3, run by Philippe Loren, and the De Winter sisters. It seems their main source of income is prostitution and brothels. Then we have the Deckers. They're a group of hackers led by Matt Miller. I genuinely don't have much to add about them, except these bastards are annoying. And last but not least are the Luchadors. And yes, that's right, this gang runs around in luchador masks, and their leader is the main antagonist in the game, Killbane. I will say that I think this is the worst group of gangs in the series. Yeah, they're the most unique group, but that doesn't necessarily make them better. I just never could take them seriously. They almost seem like characters from some sort of superhero game, and just makes it so hard to take any of it seriously. All the gangs in previous games had bosses and lieutenants who posed some sort of threat, but in this game they're all just a bit comical. Let's go through them. Loren gets killed in the first 30 minutes, one of the De Winter sisters gets killed almost instantly, leaving the other one to join up with the Saints, and then there's Matt Miller. He's just a little weasel, and that leaves Killbane, who isn't a bad antagonist, but I just can't take him seriously, because again, he walks around with a fucking luchador mask on. I don't know if he's more likely to shoot someone, or hit them with a 619. Things don't get better when it comes to the Saints' new recruits either, these being Zemos, who sounds like he pimps out GLaDOS from the Portal series.
You don't waste time.
Well, if you went on a ball gag with a horse tail up your ass for a few years, I think you'd want to unwind too.
Fair enough.
Angel de la Muerte, Killbane's rival, who is voiced by none other than... Wait, do you know what? Actually, I want you to try and guess who voices Angel. Go on, guess. You're not going to get it. Have you guessed yet? Right, he's voiced by fucking Hulk Hogan. What you gonna do? I can't even do this, man. What you gonna do when the First Street Saints run wild on you, brother? That was a really bad impression of Hulk Hogan there. I do apologise. That is just so fucking bizarre. You'd think having Hulk Hogan as the voice of the character would mean he's a bit energetic and quite fun, but no. Angel spends most of the game acting like he just found out his dog died.
Losing his mask is the ultimate shame a luchador can feel. I can't steal it back. I need to earn it.
And just like Zemos, he is quite forgetful. The other two are probably the most memorable, these being Kinsey Kensington, which I'm assuming they forgot to give her a name and that's the best they could come up with in like 5 minutes. She's a hacker who helps the Saints take out Matt Miller, and is probably the best of a bad bunch, just due to her cutscenes being quite funny. Then there's Oleg, who's probably the most unique and interesting of them all. He's quite a big fella and has been used by the Syndicate to create clones to turn them into brutes you'll face throughout the game, which are quite hard to beat. That is until Oleg just hits them with a fucking pole driver. We also see the return of Shandy and Pierce, who have changed quite a bit, not just in terms of appearance, but also in Shandy's case, personality. She went from a laid-back pothead who got information for the player by sleeping with everyone in Stillwater.
Hey, Shandy, you date anyone who worked at a place called the Pyramid?
No.
For real?
to this super serious, angry, all-time crazy woman.
What about the inside, motherfucker?
Put in your tampons and let's do this.
But Pierce is just, well, still Pierce. The reason I've spent most of this part of the video talking about the characters is because obviously they're what pushed the story forward, but sadly they're just not that good. It seems a lot of effort went into the way they look and their persona rather than them as members of gangs, so it all just falls flat. But still, we've got some talented voices in the game. Obviously we had Hulk Hogan.
Angel de la Muerte is reborn!
One of the playable characters' voices is Troy Baker.
I think it's sexy. Slutty, but sexy.
I didn't get a master's in economics to look like a slut.
Isn't it nice to know you can surprise yourself?
Burt Reynolds plays himself as the town's mayor.
Repeat after me. Don't fuck with the mayor.
Look, sweetie, I'll fuck with whoever I want to fuck with. I mean, who does this guy think he is?
Viola, is this the kid you were talking about?
Burt fucking Reynolds?
Who else could keep this town running?
And then there's Sasha Grey, who I've never actually heard of. Not once in my entire life. I'll have to do a bit of research into what she's known for, to be honest, because I'm not too sure. What are you doing? Oh, hello. How you doing? Yeah, look, I know you've been falling quite behind with your videos, so I thought I'd do a bit of research for you. Oh, okay. Well, that's actually quite nice of you. What have you found out? So I'm actually looking into the cast of Saints Row the Third. Let's see here. Oh, Hulk Hogan. He's been a bit of a naughty boy in the past, hasn't he? Troy Baker. Rest in peace. He's not dead. Sasha Grey. I don't actually know who that is. Hold on a minute. Let's do a bit of research here. Oh. Oh. Right then. Do you wanna head out for a little bit? Things are about to get messy. I'm not leaving. You're not allowed here anymore if you're gonna keep doing stuff like this. What are you eating? No, do you know what? I can't be bothered about it anymore. When you have a lot of the game just trying so hard to be funny, it ends up just taking away from the plot as a whole. I think SR2's campaign found a great balance, and I just wish the story in this game had a bit more grittiness to it. I mean, this is how one of the bosses of a rival gang died in Saints Row 2.
No, please, no.
Kill me, but don't do this. Just kill me, damn it! Don't do this! God.
And this is how one died in Saints Row the Third. It just always seems the gag comes first and the story second, so I have to say this is one of the weaker campaigns in the whole series, but not the weakest one. That's coming, don't worry about that.
Oh, friend! Oh, new friend! Oh, friend! Please be my friend! Oh, friend!
The biggest change in the series up to this point is definitely the gameplay. In the 3 years it was in development, the team basically built it from the ground up. Both 1 and 2 felt very similar to each other, but the third has changed things up quite a bit. Let's start with the on-foot mechanics. The movement has changed slightly, with the player seemingly moving a bit more natural and not having the same properties as a helium balloon when you jump up in the air. Little things like vaulting and climbing animations have been added, making the on-foot feel a lot more fluid, and also these new special moves you can do whilst running and pressing the trigger to do a variety of finishing moves is a great addition. The human shield component is still here, but sadly fighting styles have been taken out, but just like the previous game, you're not really going to be spending much time using your fists anyway. The shooting has had a bit of an upgrade as well. Now you're able to aim down sights by holding down the left trigger, giving it more of a modern feel, unlike Saints Row 2's almost PS2 era control scheme. But still no cover shooting, which is quite annoying, seeing as enemies can still shoot you even if you hide behind walls and cars. Speaking of getting shot, the way you regain health has changed. Rather than the good old eat a Big Mac and keep it moving approach, now your health just regens over time, which without any upgrades will just see you standing behind a wall for about 15 seconds with the hope you don't get caught and shot again, which will just reset the time you have to wait for it to recover. One more thing I want to talk about when it comes to the on-foot gameplay is of course the enemies. Now one good thing is the enemy variety. You obviously have the usual standard enemies with standard weapons, but now there are also special enemies you have to look out for. Things like snipers, luchadors with grenade launchers, these annoying fockers, and of course the brutes I mentioned before, who even have their own variations. Definitely a massive improvement on previous games, and it spices things up a bit when it comes to combat. You know you have to watch out for different types of threat. For example, you can't just hide behind cover all the time because the brutes will just run around and take you out. Which means you've always got to keep moving around and be smart about when you attack a wave of enemies. Even though the enemies are a lot better this time round, the only problem I have with them is the way they move after being shot. When you shoot a standard enemy anywhere other than the head, that will just soak up the bullets and start to do these annoying spins and movements, making it so hard to keep your shots on target, which sounds like a bit of a nitpick, but because they soak up almost a whole magazine of ammo for just one enemy, it means it gets quite tedious when you have a room with about 10 or more enemies in there. My advice is just to aim for the head. Next up is of course the vehicle gameplay, and I'm still unsure how I feel about this. You see, just like the on-foot gameplay, things have been changed quite a bit. In previous games, the driving felt like there was a little bit less gravity than normal. It all felt quite floaty, but it was still a lot of fun to drive around the map, even if the occasional pebble in the road would send you spiralling out of control. But in Saints Row the 3rd, it's the complete opposite, with the vehicles feeling like they're almost glued to the floor. There's a lot more weight to them, especially when turning. It's definitely not the worst driving I've seen, but I don't know, I feel like I've never been able to grasp the handling in this game like I have with previous entries, whether that's the cars themselves or the fact the roads and streets seem a lot tighter in this game. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's any better or any worse. The driving is just okay. Oh, and you can now enter cars like this, which is pretty fun.
Why did you... Oh, never mind.
Obviously I'm cheating a bit when I talk about the game's performance, because obviously the remaster looks 1,000 times better than the original, but still, the original release looked a whole lot better than Saints Row 2, which wasn't that good looking by even 2008 standards, but I am going to be talking about the remaster, which looks insanely good, especially at night. The neon lights coming from the skyscrapers, these ridiculous billboards attached to this building in particular, definitely give Saints Row the 3rd a unique look. There's still a few things that aren't great though, like the NPCs that walk the streets, the water and the foliage, all look pretty dated, but overall I'm not too mad at how this looks, and I always forget on just how good a job the developers actually did on the remaster. Everything just looks way better, especially the vehicle models, and especially when they're customised with metal trim. Volition did a great job with this game's looks. It's just a shame that the city of Steelport itself is just a bit bland, which I'll talk about a bit later in the video. Of course, performance wise this game runs great, and even when a lot is going on, the game stayed pretty stable. One more thing I wanted to add is that if you're thinking about getting this on the Nintendo Switch, I've played it all the way through on there and had no problems whatsoever. So yeah, don't be worried about it not running well, just don't expect it to look as good as it does on other consoles obviously. But yeah, I can honestly say that overall Saints Row the 3rd made a lot of good and needed improvements to every aspect of the game, and it is still a lot of fun to go back to and play to this day. It's time to talk about the activities, missions, and not strongholds as they've been taken out. So you know, activities, missions, and other stuff. Yeah, let's go with other stuff. First up, activities, which are no longer required to be able to play missions. They are just optional extras. Instead, activities help you earn money and XP, which you'll need to level up and upgrade your character, which I'll talk about a bit later. Thankfully, some of the better ones have returned from the previous games, like fan favourites such as insurance fraud and mayhem, to things like escort and trafficking. But also some great new ones have been added. Most of them are just spin-offs of other ones like Tank Mayhem and Tiger Escort, which are exactly what they say on the tin. But I think the greatest addition is of course Professor Genki's super ethical reality climax, which is a game show inspired by those crazy Japanese shows like Takeshi's Castle, where you go around the arena taking out different mascots whilst trying to get to the end before the timer runs out. It's a great addition and definitely a great example of the game's attempt at humour really landing, Plus, I always thought the music in this activity sounded familiar, and I didn't know why until I saw this again.
Lipstick for men.
Apparently, our contestant is quite the hero back in Stillwater.
I just thought that was a little interesting bit of trivia. Even though the activities are no longer needed to progress through the game, I still think this is one of my favourite games to play through them all. There isn't that many to get through, and all offer something unique. So yet again, the developers have knocked it out of the park when it comes to activities. There's also Horde mode, spelled WHORED, because, you know, they're just top banter merchants over at Volition, which is, well, just a Horde mode, a pretty boring one at that. I think I've played it about 3 times in the entire 13 years of this game's existence, so yeah, it's quite boring, but I thought I'd just mention it quickly in this part of the video. Okay, so I'm going to contradict myself a bit. After playing it for this footage, I actually really enjoyed it. It's actually quite fun, so yeah, if you do get Saints Row the Third, check out Horde mode. So what's actually replaced Strongholds? Well, they're called gang operations, and they're not as exciting as they sound. All it is just a group of enemies standing in one location, and you just have to take them out, which with the right firepower can be done pretty quickly. This needs to be done in order to take over parts of the city, and also buying things like stores and properties to turn the whole map purple, and also increase the money you earn per hour, which money is very important in this game. Then of course there are the missions, which Saints Row the Third probably has some of the best in the series, even if it only has 25 missions overall, which is slightly disappointing, but still most of them are a lot of fun and action packed. From the get go, it's clear that the focus in this game is big action set pieces, from hanging onto a big bank safe mid-air whilst taking out enemy choppers, to free falling from a plane in the very next mission whilst taking out enemies. The fun never stops in the campaign. One of my favourite missions has to be Party Time, where you base jump into one of the Syndicate's penthouses and take them all out, while Kanye West's Power plays in the background, the same song from the reveal trailer. Not only are they fun and exciting, but also very unique, with missions taking place inside a virtual world to take on Matt Miller in some crazy simulation. Yeah, crazy simulation in Saints Row. That's so strange. Hope we never see that again. Or entering a wrestling ring later on in the game to beat Kilbane. And even stopping a zombie outbreak on one of the islands. The one thing I've got to give massive props to the developers for, it never gets dull, and is always a blast to play through. One other thing I want to mention about the missions is the fact you now have to make choices which affect certain elements in the game. Like very early on, you have the choice of either blowing up the Syndicate building or taking it for yourself, with different rewards for doing so, and also changing the city's skyline by completely wiping it out or having the building emit the Saints purple instead. A lot of the choices aren't major and don't change the game's story all that much. Even the last mission's choices, which I'm not going to spoil, doesn't change anything, seeing as you can just play through the other option straight after. But still, they're great additions, giving the player a bit more choice on how they're going to take control of the city. There may not be a lot of them, but it's safe to say Saints Row the Third's missions are some of the best and most fun to play through in the series. And to be honest, all the other components like activities and diversions also make going back through this game a lot of fun. Now it's time to talk about one of the franchise's biggest selling points, which is of course customization. Let's start with the character side of things, and I've got to say it feels like a bit of a downgrade this time around. For me, I think it's clear that the developers wanted to focus on crazy costumes and weird looking characters, which in that case the game offers this in spades. Things like being able to change the skin colour to weird colours, tons of different crazy costumes to wear. You can have a lot of fun customising the character in this game, but if you're like me and you want your character to look like, I don't know, a leader of a gang, then your options are quite limited this time around. There's still quite a few normal options to choose from, but the disappointing thing is the layer system has been removed. For those of you who don't know, the layer system in previous games let you mix and match clothing options to give your character a unique look, but sadly in Saints Row the Third the only options you have are upper body, lower body and accessories. You can still get things like tattoos, but there's no jewellery stores in this game. I don't know if it's just me, but I think just like the story, the developers tried to put all the gags front and centre while neglecting the more realistic side of the game, which for me is a bit of a downgrade from what Saints Row 2 offered. One thing I do like this time around is the upgrade system. In previous games, to upgrade things like health and weapon ammo, you'd have to complete activities. This time around, the developers have introduced a sort of RPG element to the game, where you can upgrade things like health, amount and regen time, reduce the amount of damage taken from bullets and explosives, and a whole lot more. There's a lot to unlock here, which you do by levelling up, which means the activities and different diversions around the city still have some sort of importance. They also cost a hell of a lot of money to buy as well, so make sure you're constantly buying properties and taking over the city early on so you can keep that hourly income rising, because you're gonna need it. I really like this change in the game. It gives you more of a reason to do everything the game has to offer, to try and build your character up to be absolutely unstoppable. Sadly, Saints Row the Third has a few less vehicles than the previous game. The 125 have been cut down to 85, but there's still a lot of fun to have. Like I said before, some of the cars in the remaster have had a few facelifts, like for example the Cosmos now resembles a Nissan Silvia, and the police car now resembles a Nissan GTR, which I'm a big fan of these upgrades, and glad the developers didn't just import the old models in to save a bit of time. Again, just like the clothing, there's a lot more wacky vehicles this time around, especially when it comes to the DLC vehicles. You can now get things like witches' brooms, a supercar built like a tiger, and a fucking ball of yarn to ride around the city in. The air vehicles have definitely had the biggest upgrade, with a lot more options now being available, things like VTOLs, and yeah, I'm really sorry GTA Online players for what you're about to see. These hover bikes, which, you know, make sense in a single player game, but if they were ever added to a massive online open world, I'm sure people would be a bit annoyed. The vehicle selection this time around is a lot more varied, and you don't really realise they've stripped back on the amount. Obviously the customisation is still just as good as ever, with the paint and trim options looking really good in the remaster. You can even buy real life branded rims this time around, and overall I will say the vehicle customisation is just as good, if not better, than previous offerings. Now onto the weapons, and just like everything else I've spoken about, the weapons are a bit out there, especially one of the melee weapons. You know which one I'm talking about. I don't even know if I can show it, but you know what this is. There's tons of out there weapons, like a shark launcher which hits someone with bait, and a shark will spawn out of the ground and eat them. Different types of futuristic cyber weapons, and of course a fucking Predator missile, which when you're growing up playing COD Online, seeing a Predator missile in Saints Row was next level. But other than the bizarre options, another thing that's changed is the fact that weapons can now be upgraded at friendly fire. Whether that be faster rate of fire, more ammo, or even explosive rounds, you can now make some of the weaker weapons in the game so much better. It also changes the way the gun looks, or in the Flashbang's case, changes it to a fart in a jar. It's clear that Volition had a lot of fun when it came to creating the weapons for the game, and they did a great job of finding a balance of having normal weapons like AKs and shotguns and sniper rifles, and also adding in the more bizarre ones like the Shark-O-Matic, the Predator drone, and of course, the Penetrator. Even though some parts of the Saints Row experience have been tampered with in the worst way possible when it comes to character customisation, I still think Saints Row the Third offers a lot to play around with when it comes to weapons and vehicles. A lot more options, not only in variety but also upgrades and cosmetic items, make the customisation a lot of fun to play around with in this game, and also the upgrade system works quite well and adds a bit more progression to the overall game. Okay, it's time to finally talk about the worst thing in this game, and the one thing that lets it down massively, and that's its map. Steelport is so fucking boring. All the streets look the same, there isn't any unique locales to explore, it all just has this grey, dull look. Compare that to Saints Row 2's version of Stillwater, with the trailer parks, mountain ranges, hidden cavern systems, and downtown areas. This game makes that version of Stillwater look like Red Dead Redemption 2 in comparison. It's not only the way it looks on the outside, it's the lack of inside. That's the problem. In my Saints Row 2 video I said this about the strongholds. I think one positive I can add is thanks to the very detailed world of Stillwater, a lot of them take place in some interesting places, like this one in a science museum and this one in a weird coliseum. Well, you want to know why there isn't any strongholds? Well, that's because Steelport has no interesting interiors hidden inside the map. It's just a shell. There's nothing hiding underneath like there was in the last game, no museums to explore, no malls, or hidden sex doll dungeons, which I thought would be right up this game's street. But no, it's just the same old drab areas you're going to be driving around, and no matter what part of the map you're on, it's all going to look exactly the same. I can look at a screenshot of gameplay in Saints Row 2 and tell exactly what part of the map it's on, but not in the third. It all just looks the same. I just don't know how you can go from this highly detailed world of Stillwater to this god-awful excuse for an open world. They don't even have a fucking freckle, bitches. Another thing that I think has been downgraded is the soundtrack. Now I know it's hard to live up to the masterpiece that was the Saints Row 2 soundtrack, but man, it really fell off in this game. The only notable songs on K-Rhyme are Power by Kanye West and Yonkers by Tyler the Creator. There are some other decent songs on here, but nowhere near as many as there were previously. 420 Radio doesn't even make an appearance, which is just a shambles. But something that is quite interesting is that Adult Swim have a radio station on here, which includes the Aqua Teen Hunger Force theme, which is a crossover I didn't think I needed until now. So yeah, after Saints Row 2's massive and interesting open world and banging soundtrack to listen to whilst you explore, to this drab and uninteresting mess, it is quite disappointing that Steelport never got the same amount of polish as its predecessor. Overall, I don't think Saints Row 3 is a bad game, but it could have been so much more. With the over-the-top action, weapons, vehicles and customisation, Saints Row 3 had all the components to be a great sequel, but it just missed out on the things that made its predecessor special. A less engaging story, a drab, empty map, meant that the time spent in Steelport will never be as memorable as the time spent in Stillwater. So I'm going to have to put Saints Row 3 in the B tier. It's not a bad game at all, it's just missing a lot of things that made Saints Row 2 great. Like the map was just a shell of what it could have been, and of course the story was just a bit lackluster and wasn't as good as we had in Saints Row 2. But yeah, BT, I think it's a fair place to put it, because it is a good game, it is a decent game, but it's just not as good as the two previous ones in terms of, you know, the map and the story, which I think Saints Row needs, because it's never going to be as good in terms of graphics and just the sheer size of the world like its competitors like GTA and stuff. It needs something else that gives it that edge, and Saints Row 3 is just missing that. But that is it for today. Obviously next up will be Saints Row 4. Now, where I'm recording is going to be changing soon again. I don't know if I should do like a video update of why everything keeps changing and these videos take so long, but if you want to see that, I might do like a sort of in real life update of why I have to keep moving where I'm recording these, and maybe you'll understand a bit more as to why it takes like 2 or 3 weeks for these videos to come out. But yeah, I might do that in the future just to show you guys what's going on behind the scenes. But yeah, next up will be Saints Row 4, which I'm going to be working on as soon as this video gets uploaded. Other than that, I do loads of videos like this. I do retrospectives, I look back at old games. I do have some more ideas coming up in the future. If you want to keep up to date with that, best thing to do is subscribe. I do update people on the community section of this channel just to know when I'm loading again and how far along in the video process I am. Also follow me on Twitter and Facebook if you would like to. Links will be down in the description down below. I don't really post about the channel that much on there, so if you want to follow me just to see me rant about certain shit teams, then go and follow me there. But yeah, other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for the support on these videos in the last 6 months. It's been unreal. So yeah, thank you for staying tuned whilst I'm keep moving every 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, thanks very much for the support, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.